So he says he loves you, wants you to be his wife, but he's too hooked on the crack pipe for that to be right. It's all lies, none of it's true. Though it hurts, you know what you gotta do. Cut him loose like a dirty needle.
Welcome to Channel 4 News. I am your host Charlie Clark. Today we have a special report on poverty. It is a term that creates various versions. Some associate the term with the slums of Bombay and Laos. Others with the Industrial Revolution and the rapidly growing cities of Victoria, Britain, cities such as Manchester and Glasgow. However, despite the fact we are one of the richest countries on earth, poverty is still alive and well. With 1/3 of all people living in this country is in poverty. To find out more about the subject, we will now show you the special report. I'm here today with Shaun, Singh, the poverty expert.
For those who don't know who I am, I'm somebody who works for Oxfam and is known for being the UK's poverty expert. I know everything you want to know about poverty, it's afraid to ask. And our host here, Charlie, who I've met before, he's here now to ask some questions about the subject.
So, in 2014, how many people were in poverty?
1/3 of all people living in this country, one of the richest in the world, are in poverty, which has dramatically increased in the last 30 years. For those watching, throughout your lifetime, it's increased quite considerably.
So, in the UK, how many people are in
inadequate housing conditions, you were going to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, for those who don't understand what the term means, it means that, well, the housing is terrible. There's a lot of damage, and it's just not acceptable to live in. And I'm not talking about Buckingham Palace, I'm talking about a house, a working bathroom, a working kitchen, and it's well maintained. But going on to that question, the number of people living in such conditions is 18 million. Remember that the UK population is 60 million, which means nearly 1/3 is living in poor quality housing, inadequate housing conditions, whatever you put it.
So how many people that take part in entertaining friends or attending all family occasions they would wish?
You mean that if they can't afford to do all the basic social activities, you know, entertaining friends, or going to all the family occasions, for example. You meet your friends quite a lot as a journalist, both in and out of work.
Yeah. So how many people that live in houses that can't afford heating and hot water, that kind of stuff?
Alright, going to the previous question, I'll say that the number who are too poor to take on all social activities is 12 million. On the question of heating their houses, as you know, energy prices are rising and rising. You hear it in the news all the time. It's been going on for many years, since I was working. But poverty includes fuel pricing, which is defined as spending a certain amount, far too high on energy bills. In this case, it's 1 in 3 people in Britain, which is similar to poverty levels. That number of people can't afford to live in a house, which, considering this is a developed nation and one of the richest in Europe, it is a shocking number. I mean, I'm sure many of you watching this know somebody who's suffering behind bills. I know a fair amount of people, which is a shame.
Another question I would like to ask is, how many people that live in poverty can't afford to have a healthy eating lifestyle?
Is it listed on there? Oh, yes. Oh, well. Yeah. I'll say to that, the number is currently 4 million, which is 5%. It's not that high a number compared to the overall level of poverty, but it is still very high. 4 million is still 4 million too many.
how many adults have incomes that's below minimum wage in the UK?
Yeah, so that they don't fall into poverty. The number of people who feel that their incomes can't lift them out of poverty is 1 in 4 adults, 25%. Which is a considerable, and that's just the poverty. I mean, people talk about the economic recovery.
So you know.
People don't talk about well, there is one, actually there isn't one, but most of the jobs being created are low paid. They don't, at a time when costs are rising and wage freezes are back, it doesn't help that the wages don't go as far as they used to. Thus, there's a lot of people who are concerned about they can't get out of poverty. I mean, people, despite what some have said, such as the Daily Mirror, the Daily Express and Channel 4 these days, and don't forget Channel 5, every day they have a programme about benefits, this, benefits, that. Nearly everyone out there is either in work or is looking for work, especially on benefits. You're going to get into a point about numbers, but we're talking about considerable numbers. There's hardly anyone in this country, whatever, British or otherwise, that just wants to find work. The benefits aren't that much, and people know it. They just want a good job they can do, and that pays the bills. We're not talking about Ferraris. Anyway,
so coming on to your question about your job that you work for Oxfam. So how many parcels does your job collect roughly for food?
Well, we're not the only ones doing this. I mean, the Trust, which is a Christian organisation, they do it as well. They have a place nearby, actually. But the overall numbers in this country who are on food, who go to food banks, who get food parcels, is, well, 500,000. And that number's rising dramatically. I mean, a few years ago, how many people in this country have heard of food banks? I don't know. None supposed to be yet. But over the years, I've noticed a worrying increase in the numbers. Saying they can't afford to have food. They need to go to a food bank. This is a growing problem.
Another question, how many of the UK's population are on a large heating bill or a broken washing machine away from hardship?
Well, as you know, buying the appliance such as a washing machine or a fridge is not cheap. They are purchases that most people don't have to do that often. And heating bills, well, that is, as I've said, a big concern. That is rising dramatically and increasing numbers of fuel poverty. Well, the numbers who are suffering this dilemma, that they're one big bill, a central bill, away from going into poverty. That number is 36%. Nearly 40%. That is a big number. I know we're dealing with a lot of big numbers, but this is probably the biggest number here. And it's something that can happen and it's not something that's not going to happen. I mean, recently my dishwasher, I've had it for 20 years and it needed a replacement. Thus, I had to get another one. But I'm very lucky that I'm able to afford it when I need to. But not everybody's in that position.
Yeah. So moving on to another question. 3-year-olds in household incomes, are they more likely to suffer with chronic illness than other children with incomes above the minimum wage?
Yes. I know we live in a supposedly meritocratic society, whatever they call it these days. But unfortunately, it's become harder for them. Let me rephrase it. Yes, that is true. They're 2.5 more times likely to suffer from chronic illnesses. That's the question you're talking about. Yeah, it's because, as you know, children who earn low minimum wage can't afford to eat the right foods. It is much harder for them. Also, the houses they live in might not be as good, they might not be able to live in a nice area. But those factors there are a lot of factors in relation to that.
So how many 5-year-olds are in the UK that are entitled to free school meals?
Actually, I mean, it's not about the overall numbers. I should know, actually. But it's how many have a good level of development of those numbers. How many free school meals do you have to have a good level of development in a child?
By 2020, how many more children are most likely
They do, trust me.
Under the current government? Ah, yes. Cameron government. The answer to that is 1 million more children. Which is, I think we know what the reasons are there, don't we? Many in this government will find it surprising because, as you know, Ian Duncan Smith and Michael Gove until recently the Education Secretary, both of them and others have always said they want to get people out of poverty. They want to get people at the bottom, people below the establishment, to do well in life. However, it is not happening. In fact, the problem is getting worse. It is because of public service cuts and benefit cuts. I know we're going into politics, but to be honest, we can't avoid the question of politics without going into politics, because the government makes the policy, and whatever government, and they have their ideas on how to deal with it. And right now, it is just not working. And I'm not the only one saying this. My own charity has said it. Ask many people saying it, and the records themselves saying they have failed. And going on to the poverty figures, it will increase by 1 million. That's the number of children. But by 2020, you add those 1 million, it'll be 3.5 million. That is a near 50% increase.
Alright, well, we're going to end that here.
Okay, what do you think that poverty is?
Me personally, I think poverty is a number of things. I think it starts with people being deprived of food, less wealth, being homeless, not finding jobs, and in certain cases, poverty is just people not just getting enough help they need.
Okay, what do you think are the causes of it?
Causes of poverty, I would have to say, is probably causes of poverty. I'm not too sure on that, you know.
Like low income, and like and all that stuff.
I'm not too sure.
Okay, how do you feel about the people who live in poverty?
Personally, I'm not quite well off myself, so I can't say that. I can't say I feel any type of way. 'Cause if I had the resources to help them, I would help them. But I'm not that guy at the moment, so for now I'm gonna have to come back with that question. Yeah.
If you could, what would you do to help them?
If I could, first of all, there's a number of people in poverty. I would start off going to nations such as Africa and dig deep into why so much kids, so much women, so much men are living in poverty and help them out. Actually give them the resources they need to become out of that stage where they are living comfortable, they're being fed, being clothed, everything that is natural, basically.
What do you think that the government should do about it?
My view on the government is not really good. So, to be honest, I don't think they really care. To be real.
Alright, that's all the time we have. Thanks for having me. Okay, what do you think that poverty is?
Poverty is, in the general sense, I'm an expert in poverty after all. Poverty in the general sense is defined as that your standard of living, which can define as food, education, housing and jobs, the salaries as well, is inadequate. It's not what is enough to have a reasonable standard of living. Which, of course, there are many different variations in practice, but in this country it's those terms.
What do you think are the causes of poverty?
Again, there are many causes, but to put it in basic terms, well, it mainly comes down to economic and education policy, perhaps social policy as well. I mean, for example, in many towns in the north, let's say Teesside, the historic industries closed, thus people who've worked in them for generations, families even, were put out of work. How do you do something like that? I mean, take this area for example. When my grandparents came to this country, a lot of Britain's TVs and other electronic goods were made in the factories in that direction. Where has it gone now? It's become a retail park. That is a sudden change, in my view. Those are the causes: economic and social and education policy.
Okay, how do you feel about the people who live in poverty?
Well, I'm not in poverty myself, but I feel that when I see areas like this, or even where I live, I come from Newham, which is one of the most deprived areas in the country, unfortunately. Even in those areas, what I see is a lot of wasted talent. I mean, instead of looking for a job that doesn't pay well, they could be earning money to help the economy and to help this area. Gaining trading with other countries, that sort of thing, making stuff.
Okay, if you could, what would you do to help them?
Well, for a start, the only people that can help are those in government. So for a start, I need to be in government. Then you would need to do various reforms. In education, invest more money into education so that people gain skills. Invest more into industry. I mean, compared to Germany, we don't actually make much. And what we do make helps overseas companies. I mean, the Germans, a lot of cars that are made here are made for German companies. Mini, for example, even a former colony, India, makes a lot of cars there, and steel as well. We have a lot of potential. I mean, we invented a lot of things, and even now we make a lot of things. Jet engines, cars. I can go all day about it.
Okay, what do you think that the government should do about it?
Well, as I said before, they need to focus on economic and educational and even social policy. Those are the main areas. We need to create more jobs and not just any job. We need to do more jobs that actually pay a reasonable amount. Not 0 hours, not minimum wage, good, decent jobs. And we need a better education system so that we can train people to do these jobs. That's what the government should do.
Alright, that's all the time we have. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, what do you think that poverty is?
I think poverty is something to do with like people struggling to get money and get a proper education and also get a job. And in my opinion, I know life is not easy and also like people are struggling. So I think it's something to do with homeless. That's what I think. So yeah.
What do you think are the causes of it?
The cause of it, I think, is mainly, in my opinion, I think something to do with education. Because obviously, you get a good education, we get a good job, and obviously, a lot of people are struggling at the moment, in my opinion. So, I would say, yeah, education is the main causes, and also money problem as well. So, it's not easy to get money. You know what I'm saying? So, well, welcome to real world, they're saying it. So, yeah.
Okay, how do you feel about the people who live in poverty?
How do I feel about people? Well, personally, I feel sorry for them because I know it's not easy to try and make money in that. So it can be stressful sometimes, but well, there's nothing I can do to be honest. But yeah.
Okay, if you could, what would you do to help them?
Honestly, if I was rich, honestly, I actually would help them seriously. Okay, I think it's not fair, like everybody like struggling, you know what I'm saying? But obviously I need a bit of help, you know what I'm saying? So I will actually help them because not everybody deserves to be treated that way. So yeah, that's what I think. So I would do that personally, so yeah.
What do you think that the government should do about it?
Definitely improve, spend more money on education, definitely, in my opinion. Because obviously education is key part of our life, and to get a good job you need to get a good education and that's what I think. So yeah, definitely education needs to be more worked on. That's why I think government needs to put more effort. So yeah, I personally think that government not putting much effort in education, so especially for schools and that. So yeah, but education, so yeah.
Okay, that's the time we have. Thanks.
Oh, cheers, man.
Okay, what do you think that poverty is?
Poverty is when you have no money, no education, no house. You have bad living conditions, and you don't really like live on benefits and that. So yeah, that's poverty for me.
Okay, what do you think are the causes of it?
Cause of poverty. I think it's the government, you know. They'd be too busy spending money to bomb other countries and that, rather than giving money to the urban areas, innit? You know, like if you see in the streets, innit? You know, people are like trapping in that, and such. It should be like a nice area, you know, like a nice park and a green grass and all that. Yeah.
Okay, how do you feel about the people that live in poverty?
Oh, it's tough, you know, it's tough, man. Making money around here, it's hard, so yeah, yeah, man, yes, I'm very sympathetic towards it.
If you could, what would you do to help them?
Well, if I was rich, I would, you know, crack down on the urban areas, you know, take down those who are trapping on the streets and that. Yeah, and you know, yeah, but you know, make the place, you know, look nice, you know, worth looking at.
Okay, what do you think that the government should do about it?
They should do what I do, you know, just, you know, take some time here to improve the urban areas. Yeah, and definitely take out people who trap. Definitely. Definitely.
Alright, that's all the time we have. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Okay, back to the studio. The history has shown that poverty has been with us for hundreds, if not thousands of years. However, to understand the current causes of poverty, come to a former electronics factory in Edmonton. After the Second World War, our economy failed to adapt to the changing economic patterns that were taking place across the world. The age of empire was gone. Export markets, major export markets such as India, Africa and Australia, New Zealand and Canada, naturally South Africa as well, they were no longer part of the empire. Thus, they were no longer our main export markets because the ties that were broken. Not only that, but the two superpowers of the world at the time, the Soviet Union, now Russia, and the United States, they became the dominant economic powers within their blocks during the Cold War days. Thus, our industries in this area declined because they had no one, they had less people who could sell their products to. This decline affected our electronics industry, and thus the Japanese and South Korean electronic industry began to rise, which meant we just couldn't compete with them. Thus we stopped, more or less, the industry completely. It took a lot of time, but within a few decades that turned out to be the case. Thus, by the time Thatcher came to power, industries such as this one met their demise. Some survived that period and continue to this day. But for many others, such as this site, they just declined and eventually closed. Because of the switch to services such as financial industry, the focus moved away from industry. This meant that many people lost their job in areas such as this one in Edmonton. Areas where industries such as electronics or shipbuilding or steel making, you've heard of them before, but this was one of them. People lost their jobs here, and thus that created employment, which in turn created poverty because less money they were being earned. We'll start again. This meant many people lost their jobs in areas such as this one, areas where industries, shipbuilding, steel making, car making, or even in this case electronics, they used to dominate the employment in this area. But with the closure of such industries, in many places of the country, some of which you may have even lived in, unemployment rose, which in turn created poverty. And thus, it rose. The number of families living in poverty in 1975 was 3.5 million. 8 years later, in 1985, that number rose to 6.5 million. Gradually that fell to an extent because new jobs have been created in new financial services industries, other services industries. But ultimately, even with additional benefit payments, the core issues that causes the unemployment and poverty levels, they were never really addressed. Thus, areas like this one are still reeling from the effects of it. Factories such as this one went out of business. This site in particular, which is by the Great Cambridge Road, was the Ferguson television factory. This site employed 10,000 people and made half of all coloured TVs, or the term was still being used on black and white television companies. Half of all of them came from this site. Today, this is all gone. Now it's a retail park. But it's affected the area quite badly. Unemployment in this area, Edmonton that is 30%. And this area is thus one of the most deprived in the country. This being the richest city in the UK.
Now, as you've heard over the last few years about the current coalition government talking about the need to reduce both poverty, however, their record over the last few years has been poor on this front. I say this because 1 million more children will fall into poverty by 2020. Thus, 3.5 million children will face poverty by the same year. This is not the only figure that puts the government's records into question. Figures such as a rise of the number of households in poverty by 2020 from 2.6 million to 3.5 million, and 5 million people stuck on low-wage jobs by 2025. Even the government's official reports admit the targets aimed at the reducing poverty will be missed. Why is the problem of poverty getting worse? One must ask. Well, many have debated about this, especially in a time of what has said to be economic recovery. Some have blamed cuts to welfare spending the fact that many of the jobs created now are either low paid or self-employment, the latter of which has few certainties in earning a steady wage.
I am here at the College of Enfield, Haringey in North East London to talk to the staff at the Learning Centre. They deal with those who are struggling financially, who are in the college as students, especially with living costs and transportation. I am here to talk to them about how they deal with those problems. They agreed to speak confidentially to me about this.
My name's Jackie Holloway. I'm the Welfare Officer at the College of Haringey, Enfield and North East London at the Enfield Centre. Okay, I see lots of students that are in financial difficulties, okay, for different reasons. It could be because they can't afford to get to college, they can't afford the bus fare, their parents are in hardship so they can't give them the money. There might be young people, they might be adults, and for all sorts of reasons there's things at college that incur costs like books, travel, uniforms, lunch, all those kind of things that I've come across that they're in hardship in paying for.
What financial support do you offer?
Okay, it depends on the age of the student. So youngsters get a bursary dependent on the household income. Adults, there's also a bursary, dependent again on whether they're earning or whether they're on benefits and such like. But all in all, there are a number of benefits, bursary benefits in terms of college giving out some support. We give advice about bus passes, discounted bus passes that is, or free bus passes for the youngsters. So there are lots of things available. It just depends on the age of the student, where they live and what their circumstances are individually. And have you noticed any changes into what kind of students and how they have financial difficulties over the last few years? I think for me, as a welfare officer, I'm seeing more students that are in poverty, or parents as well, whereby benefits are being capped. So they're struggling where the benefits have been capped, so their income is less. I'm seeing more poverty situations in terms of students having their benefits sanctioned or parents having their benefits sanctioned, therefore they haven't got any access to benefits for a while. So that's where the trend seems to be, a lot more homeless people included in that as well.
So it's mainly to do with the government's welfare reforms that since 2010?
I think so. That's having an impact on a lot of our learners, I believe so. Correct.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, and up next is the weather report.
So he says he loves you, wants you to be his wife, but he's too hooked on the crack pipe for that to be right. It's all lies, none of it's true. Though it hurts, you know what you gotta do. Cut him loose like a dirty needle, you don't know where he's been. All I know is I seen him high when he says that he's clean. There was a grey patch when he first bust on the scene, but as the mystery unraveled, all became black and white. Know what I mean? We can never be friends, he can go to hell. No more hanging around the house like a bad smell. Either he goes or I do. It's your decision, mama, it's all on you. You're too old to be naive, and I know you ain't ignorant. That's what's bothering me, ma, cause you're going on different. I ain't never seen you loved up like this before. Why is it everybody but you can see you deserve more? Mama, can't you see what he's trying to do to you and to me? Mama, it's so black and white, but just sitting at home. He's out smoking crack tonight. I can't go for that, no, no can do. I can't go for that, can't go for that, can't go for that. When I first met him, thought he was cool. Had a few things in common, like supporting Arsenal. I saw the way he made you happy like a love fool. Calm you down when times were hard up, stressful. But all that don't amount to shit when he starts acting like a little kid, treating you as if you were some kind of bitch. Mama, you ain't rich, but still he borrows your money and never pays it backs. Every penny he gets, he spends on that. Bad habit it is, fucking takes the piss. Bringing that slut into our house to see yo, I'm at this. Now I know you threw him out for that, but how long's it gonna be before you take him back?
Mama, know you're lonely, but you're the only
one who can't see that this bloke is a phony. And he don't really care about your mum, he just says he does cause he fucking thinks you're dumb.
Mama, can't you see what he's trying to do to you and to me? Mama, it's so black and white, but just sitting at home. He's out smoking crack tonight, and I can't go for that. No, no can do. I can't go for that, can't go for that, can't go for that.
My mama loves a crackhead, is that what I'm supposed to tell my friends? When they ask me how I'm doing, am I supposed to pretend? I like there's nothing wrong when they're blatantly is. Turn the other cheek when he's taking a piss. Fuck that, that's not how the man of the house acts. I gotta defend my territory, guard my patch, when I know he's doing dodgy shit behind your back. Put my foot down, stand my ground and that. This has got to stop, whether the guy buns crack or not. His head ain't there, he's fucking lost the plot. Dead and buried is the act phrase. Can't even act right, can't even act his age. That's so fucking lame. 30-something years old, he should feel ashamed. If I was him, I'd slip my veins in the main. Trying to lukewarm bar for sitting until my arteries drain. Do it right this time so I ain't gotta do it again. Cause there's nothing more pathetic than a cry for help. Either you do or you don't wanna kill yourself. Everybody knows you got a problem, so it don't matter if you admit it. What you gotta do is be a man and fucking deal with it. I know the truth hurts, mama, but this shit's gotta be said. He don't love you, he never has, and that's a fact. Cause the only thing he really loves in this world is crack.
Mama, can't you see what he's trying to do to you and to me? Mama, it's so black and white, but just sitting at home. He's out smoking crack tonight, and I can't go for that.